You know, sometimes you meet people who seem to be ahead of the time, and today's guest is certainly one of these people, Dr. Michael Thiemann. We connected through the Forbes Coaching Council forum, and I loved his content. I loved his take on innovation and the future of work. So we connected, and I'm really excited to have him on today's show. And mind you, it is 3 o'clock his time. So thank you so much for making it to the show, Michael.
Hello, Petra. Many thanks. It's really fun being on your show, to be on your podcast, and I'm very, very curious about this talk. Thank you.
No, thank you so much for your dedication. Now, what stood out for me straight away was a hashtag and a mantra that you live by, and that's create future today. Can you give us a little bit background as to what made you interested and fascinated in innovation and the future of work?
Absolutely, thank you. I think since I was a little boy, just to give you a little story, I love to tell some stories. I was a little boy. I was always worried about my mom, how she was doing all the cooking and stuff like this. And at that time already, I was, I think, 5 years, I want to invent a potato peeling machine, something like this, and to make just her life, her daily work much easier. And I built something out of, this Lego bricks. I don't know if you know that. And sure, it didn't work, and but ever since I was always interested in things like doing things newly, doing freshly, and to innovate and to bring new solutions to existing problems. And as well, during time, I saw as well lots of new trends, new crises coming up, and how can you solve those? That's what is the starting point. That's really why my mantra is I want really to help people to find solutions for their clients, even as for themselves, how to solve existing problems, but as well upcoming problems which are caused by trends, new trends, and as well crisis. Like crisis, just an accelerator of change. That's the basics, yeah, behind my mantra.
So you've basically prepared all your life for today's economy and landscape, because as you said, crisis just fast tracks innovation and the need for change.
Exactly. I'm fascinated by change, because the whole life is in constant change, and you have to use different tool sets. You've developed tool sets to cope with change, and change is a constant, and therefore create future always means you have to use trends and to benefit from those trends to shape a better future. And that's, I think, the internal intrinsic value for me I have in change and how to cope with change.
Oh, I love it. And you're so spot on. It's more important than ever to embrace the change and do something with it. Also, in your book, Create Future Today, you highlight that innovation and researching trend isn't just for the nerdies and the scientists, but it's important for everyone. Why is that? And how can we get better with it?
I think if you look at today's times, called VUCA times, this volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous times. But what is it about? Means in the end, we are, as I mentioned, we are surrounded by change all the time. But you have some big influence at the moment, like digitalization, like big data, like artificial intelligence, just to take one out of it. And those trends, they will have impact people. Really people in their typical Maslow'ian demands, in the basic demands as well in the upper demands. And if you can find out what those impacts on people are, and if you analyze a little bit how you can improve the positive impacts or diminish a little bit the negative impacts, you can create solutions for people, for your target customers, if you like. And therefore, it's so important for a company, not to be surprised by existing trends. If you look at COVID, so many companies were surprised by COVID because they didn't do their homework due to digitization. Yeah, they never thought about how to put their processes more in our internet, in a digital world. And therefore, to find out what the impacts on people, to make solutions out of that, and to incorporate those solutions somehow in their business models. That's something people for themselves as well for companies have definitely to do. Yeah.
Absolutely. And also one of your goals, which I find very inspiring, is that you want to help 1 million people to turn ideas into success. Now, how do you go about it? Because one of the biggest challenges that we see with people, especially if they've been in a career for quite a while, is that they can't see anything beyond their current job title or their industry. How do you help them to innovate, reinvent themselves, to come up with those ideas?
I think that's finding ideas. It's not like this. You go into a little chamber and being inventive. Just you press a button, you're inventive. That doesn't work. But it's so important. If you look at today's business world, many people, more and more people, want really to have their personal brand. They know I'm working for a company. It's one thing, but you have to really to find first of all your inner values, what you're standing for, what is your own purpose, what is you want to achieve with your time, with your life. And therefore have to think more on this. Is this company aligned to your values? Is that what you're doing every day aligned to your values, to your inner drive, your purpose, your big why? And that's, I think people realize more and more that and to have an imprint on this world is more important than just doing a job which I'm not interested in. And therefore, coming from Germany, Europe, is the mentality in German mentality, the Austrian is similar. Lots of people want to work for the government. They don't want to in the past, they don't want really to set up their own enterprise. And I think that is wrong. If you want to shape the future positively, if you want to create a culture which is independent and liberal and free, you need lots of entrepreneurial spirit. You need to, people want to change the world in the sense that they have a solution how they can help people. And this whole thing is changing, especially in our times, in VUCA times, dramatically. People realizing it's not so important to go to the office from 9 to 5 and do somebody's or to fulfill somebody else's dreams. It's much better to fulfill your own dreams. And that's my mantra, which you mentioned. I want to help 1 million, even more, to set up their own business in terms of to realize who they are themselves, as well, to help by their knowledge, by their experience, by their purpose, in their intrinsic purpose, what they want to do. And probably helping people is one of the best things you can do with your life.
Oh, I love it so much.
Yeah.
And probably COVID has actually fast-tracked the importance of you setting up your own commercial opportunities, because we already see the freelance and the gig economy is increasing because companies have to lay off staff or have more agile and flatter structures to be more competitive. And there is no job security, quote unquote, anymore. And I love that your take on to build a sustainable business is all about you knowing exactly what you stand for, what's your purpose in life, and what's the value you create. Mm-hmm. You also talk about the sustainability of business models. Can you talk us through a little bit as to what kind of changes have you seen in business models over, say, the last 2 or 3 years, and what is the future of a sustainable business model?
Just coming back for one step back, if you look at typically business models or in business systems, environments, you have sometimes periods of very stable environments where more or less some dominant plays are evolving and lots of other plays are settling around this big dominant player. Just you know this time from IBM, they came up with this punch card, and they only produce big computer machines, yeah, and you put in the punch card and everything was fine. It was a kind of a stable system for a long time. Then suddenly somebody like Bill Gates came up with the idea, software could be more important. It's like a brain, a high intelligent person without input, without a software doesn't work. It means therefore software is more important. They repurposed everything into more, the software is the driving part of a computer. Then Microsoft went up in the 80s and 90s. Then probably you can say the next step was with a change that the combination between hardware and software, like Apple is the solution, and so on. Means you have always the periods of stable environment, which is then after a while challenged by new innovations, by new way of thinking, and it gets a little bit destabilized, if you like. That's the moment of chance. And in this moment of chance, if you're agile and trying out new things in a more flexible and adaptive way, you can test this market, the customers, if they want to take advantage of this change as the new possibilities. And therefore, you have always this stable periods after you have some VUCA times, extreme VUCA times, like we have in the last 10, 15 years. And that's a big moment of chance companies, or as well entrepreneurs, can use. And they can attack old business model with a more agile mindset, with a more agile organization form. And that answers a little bit your questions already. Means therefore, VUCA time, agile mindset, being more agile, be more in a trying, learning, adapting, improving cycle is what we had the last 15 years, even 20 years. If you look at companies like Google, like Facebook, they're quite young. They are, in terms of typical times of companies, very young. And then as well, if you look, I love agility. If you look at cities like Rome, they exist over thousands of years, and they're completely chaotically. There's nothing organized. And a typical company, which is very organized in terms of old business models where command and control, you try to mimic a machine, even human resource is a resource, yeah, you have to optimize. And this is proven not working. Most of companies live 20 to 50 years and they're going out of market. And this whole way of thinking is changing, and as well the management theory which is taught at business schools is changing dramatically, but they're not still there. They have still to learn how they can adapt their own business theory models to more an agile mindset, an agile world.
It's such a good point that you made. I love the phrase moment of change, because we're seeing so many opportunities to create commercial answers to a problem that we are facing. Now, those chances come from trends. What are some of the ways how we can be or stay on top of the game, see those trends and changes coming before they are here, and be more agile in the way how we act and engage with those changes?
I think every company should really start to build in kind of a trend radar. Means you have to have a little radar, and you can see that there are lots of trends on it, and which are more far away, not very developed, and some trends are much more developed, like digitalization, which everybody experience at the moment if he didn't do his homework. That's one. And you don't have to be a futurist or whatsoever. You can use as well research material from think tanks, from futurists. They are publishing it every day, and you can see lots of different trends which are already described in a very detailed way. But how can you measure if that trend is for you relevant or not? And there you need some facts, some statistics. For example, if you see at artificial intelligence, you can look at Statista and to see what is a typical spending of companies already, what kind of money they're investing into trends like artificial intelligence, or what is the trend of going back to the region. This is a big trend. After globalization, people need a kind of more stability in terms of what they're knowing, and therefore they like much more to buy in a regional farmer shop, as an example, or to have more regional business. It has nothing to do with nationalism, if you like, but it's more the people need more stability. They feel a little bit lost in this global world sometimes. This is another trend, and there you can as well look at lots of statistics how people are. Is this trend buying in the internet? Yes, it's still there, but as well, especially for food, is much more coming over to regional approach, not buying this strawberries from Chile in winter time in Europe. You have as well the environmental mindset of people. They want to do good to the earth. You have the Earth Day very shortly, I guess, where the world already consumed the renewable resources of the earth already. And therefore you have those trends, and you can see lots of statistics already about it. You should incorporate them. And then to make that yours, you have really to analyze what is the impact of the trend. For example, if you look at the trend of big data with artificial intelligence, and you're a producer of toys for children, and so you can see a big pain people have is this puppy or this plaything spying on my child, because there's an artificial intelligence in there, which is then communicating by 5G and by Internet of Things with a computer somewhere, and if somebody is watching it, like Siri, like Alex from Amazon, and there's a big pain point in that. If you find solutions how you can protect that, the security issue people have with that. And as on the other hand side, if you look what is the gain side of artificial intelligence together with blockchain, together with Internet of Things, there's probably intellectual property rights. You don't big gain. You don't need probably a lawyer to transfer it from one person to another, or just in the house the lien, whatever. You don't need a lawyer probably in future, because everything you can do quite securely in the blockchain. Yeah, and therefore you have some gains and some pains trends are causing to people, really to people's personal demands and problems, wishes and hopes. And you have to analyze that, and then in the next step you have really to come up with ideas how I can solve those problems and build an offer. And there is probably most of companies doing, they're always the wrong approach. They are thinking much too much in products. They should think much more in results for their clients, results in their dream customers, and they have to build an offer. And if you, it's another thing, if you want to if you buy a driller as a customer, you're not interested in the driller in itself. You need a hole in your wall, in your wood, wherever you need this hole, and you don't care if this hole is done by a driller, by a laser, or by whatsoever. And therefore trends gives you new possibilities as well, probably technology wise, to solve problems in a different way. And therefore you have to think much more out of the box, think the unexpected more, not only the expected. And my experience with, I'm coming from large corps as well, come from corporate finance, and I see there are lots of management, they're only looking for this quarterly results, and innovation or trends for them is only interesting for them if they can see for the next quarter results and impact. And therefore innovation sometimes, especially with big companies, they're only painting a blue fridge green, and that's innovation. But for the customer, I would say, I don't pay more money if the fridge is green, blue, or pink. I expect it anyway. And the same is with the circular economy is another trend. You have this sustainable development goals. It's not only a trend, it's as well highly discussed for years already with the Economic World Forum, which just was this week. And it's fascinating what of impacts that could have on people. Yeah? And if you try to find out, if you look at a typical fridge, I just had this example, you buy it, then after 10 years or whatever the lifespan of this fridge is, you throw it away. And with the circular environment economy, the company should use all these raw materials, this whatever is in there, to recycle it and reuse it. And much better probably is there would be a business model, innovative business model. They just put it, you have a flat rate for the fridge, and that they're replacing it every time it's needed, and you don't have to throw it away. Same you're doing with the phones, I guess. Yeah, it's a similar approach. You're throwing it away, but there are lots of important materials in that. And this trend to be of this the green trend, if you like it, the environmental trend is a big one. It's an old one already, but the solutions technically they're coming up now, and you have to be part of it.
So many gold nuggets to unpack. You said earlier that people are or were looking for stability, but clearly in this VUCA world that we live in, there is no such thing as stability. The only way how we can create stability is by being ahead of the game, by researching, by reading, by being more proactive and not relying on somebody else to create a career path for us, because who knows what our industry or profession does in 2 years thanks to technology and artificial intelligence and all of those changes. Now, you also mentioned we need to look at a problem from a different angle. It's not so much what we actually create, but how we what kind of outcome we're creating, not how we get to this outcome.
Yeah.
Thinking differently and being more creative. What are some ways to actually do this? Very practical tips that we can apply to throw the box out of the window and actually have a different perspective to a problem.
It's thinking out of the box is kind of a buzzword. It's even more than out of the box are 3 buzzwords already. Yeah? But important is really, I think, to work cross-functional within a company, to have as diverse teams. Should not be in whole, it should be an empty wording. You should really apply it. Diverse means you have different angles. Means I'm myself, I have only my circle of influence. I can read, I need input to have output in my brain. But if you're surrounded by people which are different, they have different angles, different experience, different education, different skills, and you surrounding yourself by those people, you get much more input for yourself. You can see out of your own zone over your border of your plate, you would say in Germany, and then you're much more prone and able to think out of the box. That's one thing. It means surround yourself with people who are as well gross-minded, not happy with what they have. They should as well to get out of their comfort zone and to develop themselves, because we are living in a world of change. It means life is a constant development, it's a constant change. And if you stick into what you have and want to keep it, you are conservative about that, then you don't get out and you can't develop. That's one thing. The next thing is read, as what you mentioned, read, inform yourself, do the best you can do to develop yourself. Besides surrounding yourself with interesting people who are positive and gross-minded. And probably the third thing is be more experimental. Means especially in VUCA time, the proper approach is probably you have to shoot first, then you have to measure and then aim again. It's not like the typical old way. You have first to analyze properly. You need really to understand what the problem is, and again what the problem is, and you never try something out, because you don't understand the problem. And that's exactly what the VUCA time means. You haven't. It's too complex. Complex means you have too many variables which is driving the result. You don't have a root cause relationship, which is obvious at the moment, and therefore the approach is really try, experiment, and then learn from this experiment, and then do the next step, do more from what's working and do less from what's not working. I compare sometimes if you're walking in the middle of the night through wood, you can't see something, you have to go one step ahead. If you hit the tree, okay, change the direction. And if you don't hit the tree, you can do 2 steps, even 3 steps, and so on. And that's the way you do. And you have to this fail forward. It's another buzzword. Means you have to choose little steps, experimental, and do them. Don't do this big steps. Means write down your business plan for the next 4 years, and it's paper. You don't know if it's working out. And my experience over 30 years, most of business plans don't work out because life's changing constantly, and what you expect is anyway happens in a different way. And therefore experiment more and don't do this planning and doing this pink world on paper. Just do it. What's on paper, do the next step and try it out.
I love those tips. It all comes down to just being a lot faster, thinking on your feet, not being afraid of anything to not go the right way, because we don't know until we've tried whether things change and work out. And also because there are so many other elements that come into place that we have to respond to. And it's only getting more complex. Now, that leads us into the next question in terms of what is the future of a business model, since we're already seeing organizations getting leaner and flatter. Where do we see the future of business heading into, also with more highly skilled professionals exiting their workplace? I'm not sure, is it the same in Europe at the moment? We are discussing the Great Resignation, that highly talented professionals leaving organizations because they don't want to go back to the workplace 9 to 5, or simply in the workplace as such. They want to explore and experiment more with working from home, having flexible work hours that they've experienced through COVID-19. Where do we go from here?
I think what we said in the beginning, people realize the only thing what is the most valuable thing is time of your life, and what you're doing with this time in your life. And on the one hand side, technique makes it possible that you can work from anywhere, not even from home. You can work from anywhere. Like me, I'm living in Europe. Sometimes I'm working from southern France, from London, or at the moment here during the night in Germany. That's one thing. Means people realize they want to use that time wisely, and just to fulfill, we had it as well, just to fulfill somebody else's dream, like a company, just to as well, educated people, they have their own dream because they are smart, they know what they want to do, and they probably have as well ideas what they want to try out. And in moments of crisis, you realize if you're working from home, you're more isolated, that people think about, what have I done the last 20 years or last 10 years? Should I do that the next 10 or 20 years? What I want to do. Therefore, this is a trend. This is well a trend, and companies has to adapt to that. And this, you mentioned it as well, this geek economy is nothing as well new. It means lots of educated people, they're much better off and saying, okay, I'm just offering my brain on an hourly rate or on a daily rate and helping people, but I don't see there my 9 to 5, 220 days working year there. And that is constantly changing. People have to attract those people. They have to, and the whole world is more an experimental world in this VUCA, and there's much more projects, but not this typical waterfall project. I don't know whether you know this project plan and a little bit dream world again. And it's going more to an agile approach. You get more agile organizations. Agile organization means really that you try to work not only in silos. You need cross-functional teams, which could be internal teams, external teams, and a good mix around the world. And you need diversity, and and people realize it as well. Working in a silo for 20 years, if you, for example, accountant working only in a silo, you have only a small picture of the whole company in terms of figures. What was the result last year? What was the result last month? People as well want to have a perspective in upfront, because myself, I started with Ernst & Young, to just give an example, and did auditing after university, because I thought it's big money as an auditor and blah blah blah. But then after really 2 months, I realized, why should I look only into the past, what happened last year or the next 10 years and what went wrong? I'm more interested in how can I shape the world, how can I sell things to make people happy, whatever. Then I changed my career already after half a year back to banking, and did the asset management and portfolio management, just to help people how to structure their fortune more or less. And that's, people are realizing that's more and more what they did. They want to probably have an impact on the world. They want to do something good with their knowledge, and you can do it much easier in a smaller, agile way on your own than being a part of a big company like, I don't know what to name names, but where you're just a small, how do you say that, a small wheel in the whole machine.
Absolutely. You also mentioned one of the trends is more project based rather than task based. And also breaking down the silos, especially within an organization, that the entire team is not just my department, but the team is the people who I need to have on board to get to an outcome. It might be 3 different people from 3 different departments, but this is my new team. Now, when we talk about careers, especially when everything is changing so quickly, where do you see the future of careers overall heading into? Is it more project-based to be more a generalist? Is it still better to be a specialist? Where do we see the trends there?
I think the trend is here, you can summarize under the word personal brand. It really, it's just personal brand. Means if you have your knowledge, you're in authority, you're in trustworthy authority, and you stand behind your values, what you're standing for. That's more or less your personal brand. And you can help a company, you can work for a company as an employee or as on a C-suite, as a leader or whatever. You can be employed or just help it as well as an external. And that is, I think, the way to think about this. Means you have your own personal brand. Sometimes this brand helps this company with my knowledge, with my experience, with my skills, and I create results for this company. Yeah, and I think this result-driven approach, and that's as well why people are leaving companies. They want to have to bring results to their customers, to their people they want to help. They don't just want to do something in a process they don't like. And therefore, personal brand is the future is the basic, the fundament of the future of work, because by your personal brand, you're probably influencer and can help the company because you have so many connections. And think of a salesperson. The salesperson, nothing else as an influencer. He knows lots of people, has a big relationship portfolio, and can help companies to sell their product if the product is aligned to the internal values.
It's a great point that we're going away from a job title, that we're boxed into this industry or profession, but going broader and want to be known for our values, our traits, our characteristics, and the results that we can achieve for others. Now, especially for more traditional employees who have never thought about this concept of building a brand rather than a career, what are some ways how we can get started, especially if we are in a industry professional, even in a company for, say, 20 years? Do we all of a sudden have to become an influencer and being famous, or what are some of the steps that we can take to get started?
I think the biggest step you should consider trend. You have digitization with Internet of Things. Means lots of jobs. I'm just going for the lower jobs. Means everything what can be done automatically will be done automatically. The race is the machine cheaper or the person cheaper? This question will be answered over time quite quickly. Means they have to reconsider what they're doing with their skills. Quite. They will wake up definitely the harsh way. But I think what education has to start as well at university, at school, to make people more, to bring them more to an entrepreneurial spirit. It's coming back to my mantra. Therefore, I want to help people to think as an entrepreneur. They have to consider I myself. I'm an enterprise myself. I need my brand to sell myself, not in a negative way, but to help people to provide results. And it's a question of education. They have to do that as well. It's not so important to read Shakespeare in Old English. It's more important to understand how the mechanics of modern world, how economy is working. And that's an educational thing. And for people in the middle of their career, they have as well to think much more about what is their result, what are they offering really to this company. Is there an impact? Or is there no impact? If there's no impact, then they're at risk losing anywhere their job.
Such a great point. This probably wraps up the conversation. Now, where can we find more about you and also support your aim to turn a million ideas into successful businesses and commercial solutions?
I'm as well new to social media. I think started last year with LinkedIn. I'm most actively of LinkedIn. If you want to follow me there, you will find some quite good content. I'm trying to do it daily, but sometimes I'm doing it only every second day. I should improve myself, definitely. Otherwise, I have my own company under the webpage www.strategy-lab.com, and then you can find more information about me. And plus, we are publishing constantly on Forbes, sitting there on expert panels. Yeah, there you can find me.
Excellent. I'll put all the links in the show notes, because your content is definitely very forward-thinking, very practical, very actionable. And this is exactly what we need in this very confusing and very complex time that we live in. So thank you so much for being on the show, for making a 3 a.m. start work for us. And I'm looking forward to learning more about your next steps.
Thank you, Petra. Thank you. Yeah. And I'm so happy to be on your show today. Yeah.
Thank you so much.